This is Kickin' and Streamin' Podcast, a binge watcher's guide to streaming movies, TV series, and stuff. Here are your hosts, Graham and Jocelyn.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Kickin' and Streamin' Podcast. My name is Graham, and today we are live on Facebook and on YouTube. We are doing our end of year review. With me, of course, is the very fantastic Jojo. Hello, Jojo.
How do you do, Graham? How's life?
Life is good. I'm going live, and this is so exciting. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. We are on. So how do you do with you, Jojo?
It's going. I've got some mouthy dogs today, so if the Facebook and YouTube world hears my barking little monsters, that's sorry.
Yes. Oh man, them chihuahuas, they are active today. Any mailman, any neighbors doing whatever they do outside, they are going to be there telling them off.
Telling them exactly either not to do it or how to do it, one or the other. I'm not sure which.
Don't do it at your house, because this is my house.
Yes, exactly.
So today is an interesting thing, because we are reviewing this year that I still haven't found the correct adjective to put to it. How would you describe this year, Jojo?
2020's been a very unprecedented year, I guess. It's been unprecedented in some good ways and some bad ways, and I think that's the adjective I would use. It's been a year.
Yeah, I think we could all do with unprecedented. Unprecedented is what we are going to stick with in it. So just so you know, we are going to be possibly joined later by our fellow podcasters, the Tucker brothers, and they too will be reviewing the year with us. But for now, you got me, you got Jojo, and if you don't follow us on Instagram, if you've never wandered into our YouTube channel, this is what we look like. So let me show you. This is me, and now this is Jojo. There we go. The first video we did back then, early this year, someone told me, so that's what Jocelyn looks like? I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know. Whatever you thought it was, that's what you thought.
Sorry for the disappointment.
All right. So 2020 has been everything, including interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, interesting.
It's been interesting because it put us through some stuff that we never expected to see in our lifetime. And it taught us a lot about ourselves. It taught us that we are resilient, if you will, but at the same time, there's a few people that can't go through some shit, innit?
This is true. This is very true, and it's interesting the amount or the differences in the shit that we are able to go through. Of course, people are all different, but it's like for some people, self-isolation is a breeze. That's fine, and there's other people that are losing their mind over that. I can't go out. What are you talking about? So it's fascinating the differences in human nature.
Yes. The whole idea of comparing protection. I wonder if the same people who have the opinion of a mask is infringement upon my liberty, I wonder if they have the same thought on, I don't know, using condom. or any sort of protection. I mean, like
That's a good thought. Yeah, I don't know. It might be. Like that's a part of my liberty as well. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, you have to ask yourself that question because come on, because the idea of using a mask obviously is not only to protect yourself, which is true, but also to protect others. So, in the case that you were okay, if you thought, "Oh, I don't have nothing to protect myself against," well, you can't be that self-indulgent to think that you might not be contagious, that you don't need to protect the people around you from yourself, is it? Like, I just don't understand.
Well, I actually have heard people use a similar argument, and on a much less important scale, but a similar argument when it comes to using deodorant.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so it's like, I can't smell myself, and so therefore I must smell fine. So there's no reason for me to worry about, the social norms of whatever. And if you have an allergy or something like that to deodorant, okay, that's fine, whatever. But bathing is also an important part of that, and those kinds of folks would also kind of be like, yeah, I don't need to bathe either because my body is its own natural ecosystem and whatever. But it's like, no, this is so this isn't a several hundred years ago. It's socially sort of mandated now that we need to bathe and wear deodorant. So silly comparison, but at the same time, I those people that I've spoken with and smelled, kind of the same sort of, it's my body, it's my freedom. So I don't know.
Yeah, I would actually make the argument that thanks to bathing at least once on a daily basis, we have sort of like avoided a certain amount of pandemics.
I would
and,
agree. Yeah.
and so here's the thing: this particular pandemic that we're going through right now has a lot to do also with personal hygiene, isn't it? Because although taking a shower or bathing on a daily basis became the norm, mostly you had a lot of people who were quite not really, how should I say, faithful to the whole hand washing thing, right? You have the ones that went to the bathroom and then flicker their hands under the running the running water and thought, "Yep, my hands are washed."
Yeah.
And now we found ourselves in a pandemic where the main thing you have to do, because social distancing became part of it a little bit later, because we realized, okay, well, you're sneezing, you're contagious, whatever. But the main thing you had to do to keep yourself from getting this shit was to wash your damn hands and wash your damn as often as you could.
Right.
So there's that.
Right. And there are people that will fight back against that too. I read a whole article in Slate magazine about a woman who refused to wash her hands. She said she hadn't washed her hands in something like 10 years, except when she showered, because it would age your hands. It would prematurely age your hands washing them. And she didn't want to get like the liver spots and the age spots in the back of her hands, which I don't know. I can't quite comprehend the level of that selfishness. No, it was a whole, like, I've literally not washed my hands except when I bathe in like a decade. And she's like, and she kept talking about how beautiful her hands were and how ugly everyone else's hands were. And I just thought that was so, I don't know. That was a whole different level of bubble selfishness than I'd heard before. But she also saw it as an assault upon her freedom to be told to wash her hands, because how dare you? It's part of my beauty routine to not clean myself.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a bit too much for me. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get this thing started, and I think we should start by telling folks what reviewing the year looks like to us. As you know, we are a podcast that will review things that we've watched on streaming, specifically on streaming networks, on streaming platforms: YouTube, Hulu, Netflix, HBO Max, Disney, Amazon Prime, or whatever. So we've done that throughout the year, and of course, we doesn't mean that we get to everything because Jocelyn and I don't necessarily watch what everybody else is watching. Uh, because that's the point. We want to find those shows that are slightly obscure and sort of like flying under the radar. Is that what you would describe it, Jojo?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe not quite as popular as everything. Not that we don't talk about popular things, but we do try to call attention to things that we feel might not have had as much attention called to them as we feel that they should have. Of course, we're not movie critics or anything like that. We don't claim to be. We don't want to be. We just do this for fun.
So I think this is also a disclaimer that deserves to be said. We are not movie critics. We're just here for the fun.
Yeah.
So um, we have gathered a list of what we think were our favorite, but also some of the most important things we watched this year on streaming. And some of them we didn't watch, but we know that they played a major part in, water cooler. Is that how would you say water cooler thing?
Water cooler gossip.
Right. so, so that's what we've done, and so we we are going to start with our top 10, right? And we will tell you why we selected those, and we hope you like it. We hope you agree. If we are later joined by the Tucker brothers, then we will catch up with them on what they think, uh, their top 10. But for now, you got me, you got Jojo. So, Jojo, would you please take it away with number 10?
So number 10 is something we talked about. You haven't actually watched it, I don't believe, as the last time we spoke. But it was a incredibly popular series for a brief moment in time. And I think that was because of the brief moment in time that it was introduced to us, which the show I'm talking about is Tiger King, which is on Netflix, and chronicles the story of Joe Exotic and his awful zoo, and Carol Baskin,
It's
and
awful zoo.
yeah, and the kind of the weird juxtaposition of worlds. And it was very salacious. It was very entertaining. And I think it was something that, since it sort of happened at the beginning of isolation and quarantine, might have been the first show that a lot of people binge watched ever. I think it kind of sums up a lot of 2020, maybe not all of the good parts, but we did get a lot of enjoyment out of it. It did make a lot of people laugh. So yeah, Tiger King, number 10.
I swear to God, Tiger King kind of surprised me in a lot of ways. For some reason, I didn't know what Tiger King was until I started seeing all the memes on Instagram.
Yes.
And when I sort of like figured out what it was, I didn't think that it was something from the United States, because when I looked at pictures of Joe Exotic, I'm like, it's got to be some dude all the way up there down in Australia or New Zealand, because that's what I thought.
Yep.
But then I realized, oh, so this is here. This is here.
This is here.
And then I
Yep.
started doing some reading about Joe Exotic, and I'm like, what? What? Dude had run for office as a Republican.
Yes.
What? What? How many husbands?
I think that was 3 husbands.
3
So,
husbands.
some of them at the same time, I believe.
That's
At least
amazing.
at least 2 at the same time. I know one was very tragically and accidentally killed.
Oh,
But
wow.
but yeah, I know it was. I think two were at the same time. It's been a while since it was at the beginning of the pandemic since I watched the show. So
So,
yeah.
so the fact that Tiger King became a thing at the beginning of the year, if you will, what does that say to you as the year we're about to have, Jojo?
Well, I think it definitely speaks to the more bonkers side of 2020. I'm also going to say I think it speaks perhaps to the hopefulness a lot of people felt at the beginning of the pandemic, because the show, as crazy as it is, as wild and out there as it is, it does have a sort of thread of hope running through the whole thing, like of optimism, because Joe Exotic, as bizarre an individual as he is, it just comes across as a total optimist at all times. And I think that was maybe a lot of folks feeling at the beginning of this. Oh, it's going to be crazy and wacky for a while, but at the end of it, it's all going to be all right. So I don't know. I feel like at the beginning of it, that spoke to maybe our optimism that may or may not have been misguided.
And then, boom, it just went completely crazy from there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, who would you say became actually more of a thing that ingrained in the American consciousness? Carol Baskin or Joe Exotic? Because Carol Baskin, sort of made the news for all the wrong reasons, even though I feel like Joe Exotic was just sort of like the butt of the jokes most of the time. But
Yeah,
Carol Baskin, in a more serious way, became kind of like bad news, isn't it?
yeah. Carol Baskin, the series is not supposed to be about her really, and except for her sort of disgust of Joe Exotic and his true and pure hatred of her, and their rivalry and their constant fighting and butting of heads. So I feel like kind of Joe Exotic came out of this. I mean, I know he's in prison, but cleaner than Carol Baskin did, because people really hate her
Yeah.
without having met her, and are convinced that she killed her husband, which I'm not going to comment on either way. I just find it fascinating that you have.
Come on, Jojo. We have to know what you think. I mean,
I don't know. I don't
I'd
know.
like to know what you think.
She made some very strange comments, but I also know how things can be edited to appear certain ways and can be taken out of context. But I mean, supposedly there's no supposedly, her husband did disappear. She has a missing husband,
Right.
who left all of his money to her, and it was quite a substantial amount of money. And there is a point in the show where she comments, "Oh, if I wanted to get rid of a body, I would cover it in something that the tigers like, which is sardine oil." And it was just like, what? why would why
I'm
would
sorry.
why would you even say that? I just, to me, that was like, I don't know, like one of those slips that people supposedly make sometimes when they're just talking. Like, I don't know. It was odd to me. So, in the case of, I know that her husband led a sort of a dangerous life, kind of a high risk life, but he was involved with some bad people. But at the same time, it's quite often the person who has the most to gain by someone's death that is
Yeah.
going to do away with them if they've been murdered. So she definitely had the most to gain. So I don't know. I hate to say that, because I know so much of the stuff about her has been fueled by the fact that she is female and, misogyny
Yes.
and all that fun stuff.
Yes.
So I do think in some cases she kind of got handed a raw deal, because Joe Exotic is not a nice person. He isn't a good person. And a lot of people believe that he is. So I'm not saying that she is. I don't know the lady at all, but I am a little uncomfortable just saying, "Oh yeah, she definitely killed her husband. That bitch down in Florida, Carol Baskin definitely killed her husband." So I don't know. Who knows? But she probably did.
So let me ask you this: when Joy Exotic referred to her as down in Florida, where is it where was Joy Exotic located? Like, why does he refer to her as down in Florida?
I believe that he's located either in Missouri or Arkansas.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I have to finally get on to watch this show because I feel like now I'm missing out on something. And plus, I want to arrive to my own conclusion as to whether or not Carol Baskin did her husband
Yeah.
the way people are suggesting in it.
Yeah, and it's a very entertaining show. It's one of those things that I actually put on the first episode as just a joke to myself. Like, yeah, everybody's talking about Tiger King. This is dumb, and then I was hooked. So,
all right,
what
so
do I
there
know?
you have it. Our number 10 for this year on our top 10 is Tiger King, as explained to you by Jocelyn. So we are going to move on to another show. That will be our number 9. Here is the thing. I am behind on that, and that's on me because I know this is a very interesting show. This is also a show that Jocelyn will be the first to tell you that is not incredibly substantive, to be honest, but it's a very popular show, and everybody loves the main character of the show. Jojo, would you also do us the honor of telling us what show I'm talking about on our number 9?
So number 9 would be The Mandalorian. 2020 saw the second season of The Mandalorian come out, and kind of as much as a phenomena as the first season was, I think the second season came in just as strong and just as growth. You got to see growth in the characters. And even though it is formulaic in the sense that it is a space western, and it is set in the Star Wars universe, so you know that there's going to be particular themes and characters that are going to come along. It's very, very entertaining. It's very well written. The production values are very high. And I think that, everybody knows about Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian and the helmet. And even if you haven't seen the show, I think almost everybody knows the image of Baby Yoda. So I think this was important for 2020, even though it came at the last of it and the last episode just aired. I think it was important to the year. Just because it gave everybody something to look forward to. We saw the end of the first season when things, I think we were just starting to get a hint of things going south in terms of the pandemic and other things. And then the second season coming towards the, sort of maybe some light at the end of the tunnel. So I think it was a good bookend to the year.
I suppose my question to you is: should we actually play the spoiler and tell people? Well, we know that Baby Yoda's name has been revealed, and surprise, it's not Baby Yoda, is it?
It's not Baby Yoda. No, I was hoping for. Let's see, what was the internet hoping for? It was Baba Yo. So, because it sounds very Star Warsian, like it's plausible, but
Baby Yoda, Baba Yo.
Baba Yo, kind of rolls off the tongue. But his name is not Baby Yoda, and he's not just the child or the kid. He's Grogu. So
Grogu. I actually like the name.
Yeah,
it's actually as Star Warsian as you would go, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. They went in a completely different direction with it, which is cool,
Yeah. All right. So The Mandalorian, as chosen by Jojo, is our number 9. I think we are nearing the time where we'll be joined by our brothers from Talker Brothers. So
Yay!
at any time now, they should be with us. But we are going to continue with our number 8. So let's see. This show that we chose for number 8 is also another one that I think I described it not too long ago as a comedic version of The Matrix.
Mhm.
And that seemed to have sort of like a strong accord with you in a positive way when I said that, Jojo. Was that as accurate as I thought it was?
Yeah, yeah. I think that was a really good summation of the show.
Yeah, I have to say I loved Upload because it was a very light-hearted show, but it sort of like touched on a lot of realities that you would never expect could be translated in the world of artificial intelligence and artificial consciousness and all of these things. And so Upload was on Amazon Prime, and I don't know that it was a show that did a great splash. Only people who are into this sort of things would have watched it, but we liked it. Why did we like this show, Jojo?
It was a kind of a fun take on the idea of consciousness. The idea to the practicalities of what would happen if we could upload our consciousness as opposed to dying, and the fact that the rich would probably have a better afterlife than poor folks. The I was just thinking of the scene of the main character trying to get like a cup of coffee, and he has to have certain credits or whatever to get coffee in the afterlife, which I just thought was so funny and ridiculous. But yeah, Upload is it's a good show, and it's interesting because it explores that, and there is, from what I understand, from reading, that they expect this sort of thing to be possible on some level as soon as the year of 2045, which really isn't, that's, within our lifetime, possibly. So that's a little scary
I
to think
think
about.
I think that's what sort of like caught my attention about this show is the fact that I found a lot of the subject quite plausible.
Hmm.
And that's the kind of science fiction type of thing that I like, right? Like I'm all for science fiction, but also even in that part, as much of a realist as possible. And for me, if I am going to watch something that is based on fantasy, let's do a 50-50 thing where some of these things are plausible.
Right.
And there is a huge amount of plausible science in there that maybe we wouldn't see in our lifetime. But as you said, your readings have revealed that some of these things might be possible at least in the next 25 years or so. So, the show is not far off. It's not a far-fetched idea, is it?
No, it's not in the realm of impossibility like it used to be. It is in the realm of the possible, which is kind of cool.
So for number 8, we have Upload. That we are then moving on to number 7, and I have to say that this is when I would have really, really loved that if Tucker Brothers were still here, because I know that they are a huge football fan, but I'm sure they have the same love for basketball. And now that I've said basketball, I know you more or less have an idea, ladies and gentlemen, of what is the next show we are going to talk about. But I have to say, Jojo, this show, number 7 for us, The Last Dance, I don't think that it would have made the big splash that it made this year had it been a conventional year where everybody was busy going to work and coming home after 5 p.m. and going to bed. And I think you revealed to me, you made me understood that it was a 10-part miniseries, wasn't it?
Yes, it's quite an extensive documentary. It is 10 parts, so it is an investment. So we're not talking about like a hour and a half movie.
Right. And the crazy thing is, I think it was an ESPN Sports sort of like produced. And they do this kind of documentaries all the time about coaches, about players, about teams and stuff like that. And they've never made this kind of huge splash except this year. Now, there's two major reasons for that. Reason number one, it was about the Chicago Bulls of the mid to late 80s and early 90s that consisted of Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, what's his name, the dude that is friends with Kim Jong-un, and all of that. So,
Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman. That's the dude that's friend with Kim Jong-un. It's amazing that I can remember him more for that than for anything else, isn't it? So The Last Dance was an incredibly popular show. That's what everybody talked about for at least a good month in this year. And so I have to say, I am I'm ashamed to say that I haven't watched it.
I think it became so popular and so part of the experience of this year too, because of course, people are very interested in Michael Jordan and his life, and then with it being readily accessible on Netflix and having the ability to binge watch it very easily. Again, I think this year lended itself to this becoming so popular. I don't know if it would have been as popular in any other kind of year, kind of times. And that's not to disparage it in the slightest. I don't mean it in that sense. I just mean that it does take commitment to watch it because it is a 10-part series. And I feel like that it would have been more of a niche thing that maybe only real Jordan fans or real Chicago Bull fans would have been the ones watching this, as opposed to the more casual viewer. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I agree with that in the sense that I think this would have been something, as you said, not only for the real fans, but also you think that much of the story of the Chicago of that team has been told, and so it would be like, oh yeah, just another one. What I think made it perhaps other than what went on this year, what I think made it an incredibly popular show is the fact that it was one that saw Jordan talk quite a bit more than we ever have seen him before. Jordan is an incredibly private dude for a guy that is one of the most popular persons on earth. Yes. And he was kind of like spilling the bean on this one, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He was certainly more open, and certainly more just, let people into his life a little bit more, which is certainly something his fans are interested in. And I think something that even if you aren't a fan, or if you don't know very much about him or the Chicago Bulls or basketball, you want, that someone who is a private person, once they start to speak, they're probably going to have something interesting to say.
Yeah, I've got some stuff to say, man. All right. So our guests are having a hard time trying to connect for some reason.
Oh dear.
And yeah. it seems like history is sort of like repeating itself, isn't it?
Positions are swapped. Last week it was us.
Yes, last week that was our issue, and now it seems to be their issue. Uh, my understanding is that it only says joining, but he's unable to to join. So let me see what we can do. But we are going to continue the conversation in the meantime. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
You
so
want me to talk about the our number 6, and you you work on technicalities?
I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Go ahead, Jojo. Tell folks about our number 6.
Number 6, and take it away. Oh boy. So our number 6 on the list is a show that did not debut in 2020, but it did end in 2020. It was the last season. And it was a show that was, I think, some of the best television to come out of broadcast TV in a while. And that is The Good Place, which, if you aren't familiar with it, is so much fun and so touching and so well written, and it's just it's good TV. And so it has a lovely cast, and it was, I think it was important this year because of some of the topics that it explored, and because we're saying goodbye to something that we've had for a few seasons. So it was kind of bittersweet in a way to have it this year. But The Good Place, it was the last season. We, of course, had all our beloved characters in it. And it, explores some themes that we're certainly interested in and thinking about, maybe a little bit like Upload in that sense. The Good Place, of course, although it debuted or started on broadcast television, is available for streaming. So, we kind of felt okay including it in our list of things that we normally, we only talk about streaming shows, but it is such a good show. And I do think that I think it had a good fan base and was popular. I think that it's something that is going to continue to grow in popularity as time goes on, kind of like the show Community or Scrubs or shows like that went on for a while that maybe didn't find their full base until after they had wrapped. But you can certainly find The Good Place now on streaming services and watch the whole show, and it's just it's a lot of fun to watch. And I think that's about all I have to say about The Good Place. So hopefully Graham will be back. He's back.
So yeah, this was one of my favorite shows, to be honest with you, and I discovered it about 3 seasons in, and it was thanks to Kicking and Streaming and thanks to Jojo, because I remember watching the first 2 episodes of The Good Place, and I knew that it was a funny show, that it was a cool show, but this was back in the days when I, was settling for just watching regular TV and waiting a whole week to see half an hour of a show. And at some point I decided I'm not going to do this anymore. So it became a thing where if something was on regular TV, I would wait until the season was over and they would dump it on Netflix or on any other streaming platform, and I would watch it. But somehow this particular show, The Good Place, sort of like fell off my radar, and I never got back to it until Jocelyn mentioned it in one of those, list of things that you have to watch this summer, I think. And I'm like, yeah, let me get back to this. And it became my favorite thing because it explores the philosophy of community and doing what's right by one another. And specifically, it has huge references to Tim Scanlon, who is one of my favorite modern philosophers. The theory of what do we owe to each other. And so that for me was awesome. And I am very, very glad that this came about. So that show, number 6 for us, The Good Place, is a show that you need to watch. And it's going to be one of the best things that will happen to you, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's a good show. It really, really is. It's a very good show. And kind of highlights some of the absurdities and things, but in a respectful way. And it's fun.
Right. So I am really mesmerized at the fact that all of this is happening. It almost feels like, one of those things that has everything against it for happening, right? So last week we were already, I may have explained this in a post, we were very ready to get this done last week, and I wasn't able to join into our guests chat, and it took us an entire afternoon trying that. And this time around, it's happening with them, and I'm mortified. There's no reason why that should be the issue, but here, let's just continue with this. Technical issues are a thing, with streaming, and especially this year, because this is fairly a new industry, and with lots of people working from home and stuff like that. So it's one thing that the entire world is using, and at the same time we are getting used to it. It started with email, and then it was chatting in chat rooms and stuff like that. So now is this sort of conference virtual rooms where a lot of things happen and a lot of things don't happen. So I am.
If it's anything to do with tech and it's new, it takes forever. So it's to get smooth.
I'm incredibly mortified that they are unable to join us. Really. So let us go then to our number 5 of the list. Jojo, I have to tell you, this was one of my favorite, and we actually did an episode.
Yes,
about
we
this
did.
show.
We did.
And we enjoyed talking about it, didn't we?
We really did. I'm glad we did a whole episode about this show, because I think it. I think this is one that kind of fell off the radar, and I'm sad about that. And so I'm glad we decided to include it on the list this year, because I think it was a great show this year.
So number 5 on our list is the show Hunters on Amazon Prime. There were quite a few surprises about this show, and I have to be. I'm going to be the first one to say that I never expected to see Al Pacino doing a show that was strictly for television. I mean, for smaller screen, even though it was for a streaming service, but it was for the smaller screen. And I was like, Al Pacino is in this, isn't he? So that was weird. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to watch this show, because I think I've said this before, Jojo, that in my view, Amazon Prime is a bit more selective with their shows, and when you see them announcing a show a lot, it's because they know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's either going to be very, very good, Oh, it's gonna be terrible, terrible, terrible.
Yeah, there's kind of no in between, unknown
Yeah.
between with that. Yeah, yeah.
And so they were really pushing the show, and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna watch it, and boy, was it good! And like everything that happens in the show is a huge surprise. And um, as you've done so brilliantly before, Jojo, could you just summarize this show for our viewers and for our listeners?
So Hunters is sort of a period piece in that it's set in the late '60s, mid early '70s in New York, and it is about a group of vigilantes who are taking the law into their own hands when it comes to former Nazis, to Nazis that did not ever admit that anything they ever did was wrong, or truly felt what they did was right, but are in the United States, in America, infiltrated in very high positions of power, or just living a very prosperous life, having done these terrible things to other human beings and having not paid any sort of a price for it. So the Hunters is a group of people who experienced the Holocaust firsthand, most of them, and they are essentially not going to take it anymore. And they're saying that you don't have the right to live a perfectly fine life when these terrible things were done to us, to our families. And we're going to right that wrong in the world. And so it's the story of the different characters and their different experiences during the Holocaust, or their families' experience during the Holocaust, how they got to this place, and what they do to the Nazis as they find them. So that's where the Hunters comes in the title. In the title, they are Nazi hunters. They are looking to find them and expose them for what they truly are.
Yeah, Jojo. That's pretty much it. Jojo is good at explaining stuff. She is. I remember one time President Obama referred to former President Clinton as he should be named Secretary of State of explaining stuff. That was after a speech that President Clinton did at the Republican National Convention. And, he went like an hour and a half explaining things. And everybody was like, oh, so now we get it. And so Obama was like, yeah, Clinton should be Secretary of State of explaining stuff. So I think that should be your title, Jojo. So here's what we are going to do. If you are following with us right now, if you are following this stream, we are going to make a quick stop for about 2 minutes, and then we will be right back. It's unprecedented that we have to do this, but unfortunately, we owe it to our guests to be able to find out why is it that they are having a hard time joining us, because basically it's just stuck in joining, but they never get into the green room. So we have to find out what's going on. So if you would please stick with us. Otherwise, if you have to go, you can always go back and finish watching these on our YouTube channel. And we're sorry we have to do that, but this is one of those things that happened on live anything, isn't it, Jojo?
It's a commercial break.
It's a commercial break. Yeah, let's think of it as that. So we're going to do that. Hold on just a moment, everyone. We'll be right back.